my name is Sarah and today is Top 5 Wednesday. Top 5 Wednesday was started by Lainey from Ginger Reads Lainey and is now hosted by Sam from Thoughts on Tomes. If you would like to join us for future weeks, I will be sure to put a link in the description box to the Goodreads group where you can get all of the information on the upcoming topics. Today, we are sharing our top 5 hate to love ships. Now, if you've been around this channel for a while, then you probably know that hate to love ships are some of my all-time favorites. If I had to pick a favorite type of relationship development tool, hate to love would definitely be my all-time favorite. I absolutely love it. It is one of my favorite things to read just in stories in general, whether they're romantic or not. And I think part of the reason I love it so much is because when you have hate to love relationships, there's so often so much wit and humor and snark and sassiness and verbal sparring that happens that just makes the experience of reading about those characters and their relationship so entertaining and fun, and it makes the culmination of those relationships just so much sweeter and more fantastic. And not some of my all-time favorite romantic relationships are hate to love ones, and so I could read hate to love relationships all day, every day. They're my favorite. I love them. With that lovely preamble, let's jump into my top 5. Up first at number 5, we have Benedict and Beatrice from Much Ado About Nothing by William Shakespeare. Now I know technically Much Ado About Nothing is a play, but it is technically still a kind of literature, and I love Benedict and Beatrice. They are one of the first hate to love relationships that I read about, at least that I remember. I read Much Ado About Nothing for the first time, I believe it was in 8th grade, and I totally fell in love with it. It was my first Shakespeare that I ever actually read, and it's just such a fun play in general, but I particularly love the relationship between Benedict and Beatrice. I think because it presents such a unique and interesting foil to Hero and Claudio and everything else that's happening in the play. And obviously with a play, the people that are portraying those characters are going to have a big effect on your opinions of their chemistry and this, that, and the other thing. But the dialogue that happens between the two of them and the way that their relationship develops just throughout the written story, I absolutely adore everything about it. And I think it would be super, super fun to play Beatrice in the show at some point in my life. Up next at number 4, we have Rhett Butler and Scarlett O'Hara from Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. Like a lot of people, I grew up with the movie version of Gone with the Wind starring Vivien Leigh and Clark Gable, and I absolutely fell in love with their dynamic and their chemistry and so much about them and the way they interact. The first scene that they have together still just cracks me up. I love everything about it. And though I didn't actually read the book until college, when I did, everything that I had grown to know and love about the relationship between Scarlett and Rhett that's in the movie was even more so in the book. There's a lot more development to their relationship, and though Rhett and Scarlett do not have the same traditional happy ending that we generally like for our ships, I still just love their story. I think it's fantastic. The wit and the snark that happens between the two of them is amazing. Like, you just gotta be honest, Rhett Butler had some pretty great one-liners, and I just absolutely adore them. Up next at number 3, we have Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger from the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. Now, I don't know if everyone considers Ron and Hermione a hate to love, but I definitely do, because even though their friendship is solidified from the first book, in the beginning of the first book, really the issue is between Ron and Hermione. Harry's just kind of there chilling, but Ron and Hermione are the two that keep picking at each other and going back and forth even after they become friends, and that continues throughout the entire series. 95% of the time, if the Golden Trio is having issues, it's because Ron and Hermione are having issues, not because Ron or Hermione is having issues with Harry. Obviously, that does depend on the book, Order of the Phoenix, but for the most part, the nitpicking and the back and forth and the oh my gosh, you're the worst type stuff comes from the relationship between Ron and Hermione, and it is fantastic when everything finally comes together in the last book, and that actual moment, I adore everything about it. I love the way J.K. Rowling wrote it. It is amazing and fantastic, and it's just great. So wonderful. I love them. They're amazing. Up next at number 2, we have Elizabeth Bennet and Fitzwilliam Darcy from Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Now, Lizzie and Darcy are probably the most quintessential, iconic, hate to love ship in literature, and for good reason. The Benedict and Beatrice were the first hate to love ship that I have in clear memory of reading. Lizzie and Darcy are probably the most iconic and definitely played a major hand in developing my love for the hate to love ship. I love this book so much. It's one of my all-time favorites, and I love just the way that their relationship develops. It's hilarious and fantastic, and the wit and humor that Jane Austen put into this original story is just amazing, and I love so many of the moments throughout their relationship, like the first time that Darcy proposes to Lizzie and the way that they actually finally come together in the end. And it's just, every time I read the story or I read an adaptation of the story in some sort of retelling, I get super, super excited. And I actually have found that if I'm reading a Pride and Prejudice adaptation, even though I know how it ends, I will like stay up super late to figure out how it ends, because I love their story so much, and I just love to see how when the story is adapted, everything comes together, and it just makes me giddy and happy, and I love it, and it's wonderful. And finally, my all-time favorite hate to love ship, which if you've been around this channel for a little while should come as no surprise, is Anne Shirley and Gilbert Blythe from the Anne of Green Gables series by L.M. Montgomery. Anne Shirley is my favorite character in all of literature, and Anne and Gilbert are my favorite literary couple ever. I love everything about them as characters, their relationship, their marriage, the way their lives go together, not to mention the portrayals that Megan Follows and Jonathan Crombie gave them in the 1980s miniseries adaptations. Anne and Gilbert are just the best. I love so many things about their relationship. Like I said, they are my favorite romantic couple in literature, and not just my favorite hate to love ship. Like legitimately, I have yet to meet a literary couple that I love more than Gilbert and Anne. And I think part of the reason that I love it is, yes, there's that ridiculous hate to love element, and so the story of them meeting and all of the craziness that happens and them finally becoming friends makes them coming together later in the series that much sweeter and more fantastic and wonderful. But I also just love their relationship. They are fantastic characters in their own right, and the way they interact with each other and push each other and encourage each other. I just love everything about them. But I mean, you cannot deny that the slate scene and the ridiculousness that occurs in these first couple books is just amazing. And yeah, Anne and Gilbert are my favorite forever and ever and ever. And they probably really are the reason that hate to love ships are just my favorite of all time. Between them and Lizzie and Darcy, hate to love ships are like pretty much impossible to beat for me, because they're just fantastic and I love them. Well, there you have it, friends. Those are my top 5 favorite hate to love ships. I would love to hear some of your favorite hate to love ships, whether or not we share some, or if you have different ones that you really love. And if you have recommendations on hate to love ships that I should check out, please let me know in the comments, because clearly I love them a whole lot. If you have not already checked it out, be sure to go watch the 1K Q&A and giveaway announcement. Comment with a question on there between now and next Tuesday, July 4th, when the giveaway closes, and you will be entered into a giveaway for a blind date with a book that I have loved. If you want to follow me elsewhere online, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads, all at Sarian Hayes. The links for those profiles will be in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye! Come back around to Gilbert. Oh, why is the phone ringing? Oh, this is what happens when you're filming in your parents' house.